Training camp has started. There's a lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff going on the field, a lot of stuff going on off the field, a lot of stuff said. Jimmie Ward stops by the show. Nick Caserio speaks. DeMeco Ryan speaks. Jalen Petrie speaks. My God, what a time to be alive, baby. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days. Opinions to give. We got takeaways.
It has arrived. Training camp is upon us. Training camp is here. Football season has officially begun. The anticipation. It was, I would say it was actually pretty exciting. I don't think there was any downtime. There's been a lot of exciting stuff going on with the Texans. This is the locker room, by the way, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday. Sports Radio 610. That's the number one source for Texans content, but this is the digital game right here. And I appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. We got a lot to get into, and there's a lot going on at training camp. If you're new, appreciate you for coming through. If you're a regular, appreciate you for coming through as well. It's all love, and we're just covering the squad that's gotten a lot more fun to cover recently. And you can feel it when you walk in there. Like when you walk to the stadium, you could just really feel the vibes. I know that, the last couple of years have kind of sucked. You've had bit coaches with Lovie Smith and David Culley. But there's a lot of there's a lot better stuff going on with the Texans, and you can just kind of feel it the second that you walk in. So normally, just to pull back the curtain, and if you're going to practice on Friday or you're going to practice on Sunday, come by, say hi. We're actually broadcasting on the field at the 50. So we would love for you to come by and say what's up, or if not, just hit me up on social media, come by and say hey as well. But normally practice starts at 9. Today it started at 8:30. Nick Caserio spoke with the media, and he had some really interesting things to say when he did. I had a back and forth with Nick. I think one of the storylines, one of the top storylines of this season is going to be the system, the offensive system, and what's going on with that. And I wonder from Nick Caserio's perspective, as a guy who's done offense a certain way for that long of a period of time, how much of a learning process is there? I actually asked Nick about it. This was Nick Caserio and my back and forth on the offense, and Bobby Slowick as well. I hope you enjoy this because I did. I think when you ask Nick a question that requires thought, I think you get a thoughtful answer. Sometimes people will ask him questions like, is the offensive line important? How important is the offensive line? Or what do you think about something that is common? But when you ask him something, I think you got something. And I think I got something here. This was Nick Caserio talking about the offensive system, the learning process, etc.
Go ahead, Landry.
With the new offensive system, I know it's new to you, it's new to the players. Is there like a learning process for you or anything like that? Or do you lean on anyone? How does that work for you?
You say me personally?
Yeah, you personally.
Sure.
You're evaluating the guys, and it's different system.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think what you try to do is just understand the core elements of it. What are the things we're trying to emphasize? In the end, there's only so many things you can do relative to how many runs you have, what's a design to run. I think understanding the intent and the integrity of the play, what's the responsibility of the players on those plays, what are they being coached to do, so that when we're going through it, kind of have an understanding. Because I think sometimes you always jump to conclusions, something happens, and it's like, oh man, this player is, So from my perspective, I've enjoyed it, just learning I think I like to learn and, invest time and effort into understanding what's happening. It's going to help me personally. It's going to help, I would say, hopefully our entire group. So kind of always viewed my position in the bridge between kind of personnel scouting and the coaching staff. So the more I'm well-versed in some of the things that we're doing, I'm not calling plays. It's not what we're talking about. But if you have an understanding of the intent, the integrity of the play, what we're trying to do, what happened on the play, then you can see, okay, is that something that we've talked to the player about? Is he an error repeater? Is that something that continually shows up? So that's, I'd say, becomes a part of the evaluation. So I've enjoyed it. It's been a productive system. It's been a productive offense. There's elements and roots of it kind of throughout the course of the league. Maybe it's a little bit different than the system that I grew up in relative to New England. But, I've certainly embraced the opportunity to learn something new. And you're always trying to find ways to improve and get better. So, hopefully it's, can use that to my advantage here and just to my overall football evolution and development. Go ahead, Landry. Go one more.
Is it like the thing where you need Bobby needs to call plays in preseason? Like, is preseason important because of logistics for
Yeah, the preseason is a good test for all of us. So I'd say a lot of position coaches, DeMeco was in that situation, going from position coach to play caller. Preseason, even practices, right? You're out there with the headsets, getting the information to the players, calling plays. How do you react to certain situations? And a lot of that, candidly, you're going to learn on the fly. So a lot of us, when we're put in positions, are learning things for the first time. So that's part of growing and learning. That's part of a process for sure. Absolutely.
All right, there we go. That's Nick Caserio. He was live. You can see his whole press conference and hear his whole press conference at Houston Texans. But there's plenty of stuff to get into with Nick Caserio. He was actually asked, and I'm going to take you through camp. So that's what I'm going to do. Like when I do these evaluations, I'm just going to throw you nugs. I'm going to take you through camp with me. And be sure to follow along. If you missed the Jimmie Ward interview, go check that out. I tweeted it out at Landry Locker. We put it out at sportsradio610.com. But 8:30, Nick Caserio spoke. He spoke for about 35 minutes, I believe. Practice was scheduled to begin at 9. He was also asked about the Steven Nelson situation. I thought this was funny. This was a little bit of humor from Nick Caserio. This is Nick Caserio talking about the Steven Nelson situation, the vest, all that.
Yeah, everybody's reported. Everybody's here. Everybody's ready to go in practice. So, not really going to comment on the discussions that we've had. We've had constructive dialogue with Steven. Respect Steven. I know he doesn't like my wardrobe selection, but that's okay. So, but Steven's here. He's ready to go. So we'll see how it goes here in training camp. All right. So a little bit of joke from Nick Caserio. Here's a follow-up on Steven Nelson, a little bit more from the GM. I'm not really going to comment on anything. I think a lot of these times, sometimes it's best just to have a one-on-one discussion and dialogue and conversation. Anything better handled face-to-face. So, Steve's been in this league for a long time. He's been a good player. So, DeMeco and I have maintained constructive discussions with him and his representatives. So it's kind of take it one day at a time and see how it goes. All right. So there you go. So that was Caserio. That was at about 8:30. At 11 o'clock, DeMeco Ryan spoke. And DeMeco Ryan's, he's a guy that's going to be able to put some drama to the side. This is new to him. And let's be honest, it's Steven Nelson. It's not like they're dealing with, some drama from a really good player or something like that. But this was DeMeco. This was at about 11 o'clock. And we'll go back and talk about what happened at practice. But since we're on Steven Nelson, and he was out there, and I got thoughts on Steven Nelson too. Some pretty good ones. Or at least the guys around him. Here was DeMeco Ryans, though, talking about Steven Nelson.
Yeah, it's great to have Steve here. Steve is working. Steve was here for us in our mini camp. It's great to have him here. Great presence. He came in. He's a worker. So I'm excited to work with Steven. I think he's going to be a really important piece to what we're doing. So thankful to have him here.
All right. So then practice began after Caserio spoke. Couple of things that stick out about practice. John Metchie looks very excited out there. John Metchie, he's physically, he sticks out. He looks like he belongs out there. Tank Dell as well. I don't know how many guys on this team are going to be able to guard Tank Dell, which is saying a lot because I think it's a really good secondary. But the DBs, the story of this thing for me and my biggest takeaway, and look, I don't think it's like a big overreaction, but I think this secondary is going to be really good. And it would make sense because you look at what they have and you look at how they improved the secondary last year. It wouldn't be like the most crazy thing, but when you see these guys working out, and by the way, former Texan Jonathan Joseph was on the staff. He did not leave Derek Stingley's side the whole time. I mean, he was going through individual reps with them. Whenever Stingley was doing a rep, he would be talking to him. So it does seem like Jonathan Joseph, he's working with everyone, don't get me wrong. But much like, Andre, when he would, work with specific guys when he was a coach, it appears that Jonathan Joseph is kind of taking on this Derek Stingley thing. But when you look at this secondary, and they kind of have their own field, there's 3 fields, and they're on field 3 doing their drills. You look at Derek Stingley, who's huge, by the way. You look at Steven Nelson, Desmond King, Tavier Thomas, Shaq Griffin. Those are your corners right there. Like, we're talking about depth guys. Tavier Thomas was one of the best slot corners in the league last year. Nobody talks about him. Derek Stingley, he's got CB1 talent. We know that. He's got to stay on the field. But he appears to be pretty focused. And he seems to be on track towards doing some big things. And then you talk about Jalen Petrie, and you talk about Jimmie Ward, who joined the show. Hell of an interview with Jimmie Ward. If y'all missed that, we'll get to some of that in a second. Had to use the dump button on old Jimmy. But I could see this secondary not just being good. I could see this secondary being great, like really great. The offensive line, I know we focus and we talk a lot about the offensive line. The offensive line has, and we will get to Sean pissing off Nuke Hopkins. I can promise you that. But the offensive line has some question marks, really maybe 3 question marks, depending on how you think about Shaq Mason. But they have some question marks. I don't have a lot of question marks about this secondary. This is the deepest secondary that they've had in a long time. And I think that they could end up being really, 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 really good. Ty is asking, when's the first day of pads? That's going to be Sunday, which is actually a open practice. So if you're able to get tickets to that, might be a good one to go to, because that's going to be the first padded practice of the DeMeco Ryans era, and it's going to be on a Sunday, which is good. So no one will be at work, and that's going to be incredible content that we'll be able to bring you there. So it'll be it'll be a fun experience there. Just like talking to Jimmie Ward. Jimmie Ward joined the show. Jimmie Ward, it's been made a big deal that Jimmie Ward is a safety, not a nickelback, and that's what he wants to play. The thing I like about Jimmie Ward and what he adds to this secondary is not only ability to do a lot of things and the willingness to get physical, as well as cover guys, whether it be nickel or anything else, but Jimmie Ward has more experience than you can ask for. I don't think there's too many guys. Like, he's got to be in a top 1 percentile when you look at everything that Jimmie Ward has been through. We talk about Texans, and we talk about how the Texans have had, 4 coaches or whatever in the last 4 years. You know how many coaches Jimmie Ward had his first year in the NFL? 4. Jim Harbaugh's final year, so he saw that unraveling. Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, and then Kyle Shanahan. He had 4 coaches. He had to adjust to different situations. He was a first-round pick that a lot of people scrutinized, a lot of people questioned. And through it all, he won over every single one of those coaches. He established himself as one of the vocal and on-field leaders of a very good San Francisco defense. He's got kind of a spirit about him, and that's experience you can't teach, especially during a rebuild. And this is what I told him, and this is what I think is good about Jimmie Ward is I think that Jimmie Ward is tangible culture. He's not Rex Burkhead, who's a good guy. He's not Justin Britt, who sucks, and then they bring back and he sucks again, and then he goes away. He's not some random New England Patriot. It is tangible culture guy with Jimmie Ward, who can still play ball and still do his thing. And I asked Jimmie Ward when he joined the show, and again, the full interview, you can hear that on In the Loop, Sports Radio 610. You can hear it. I tweeted it out at Landry Locker. Go check that out. Here was Jimmie Ward. I asked him what the hardest thing that he went through in San Francisco. And my producer, Figgy Fig, best in the world at what he do. He had to use the dump button.
Oh, man. The hardest things that I kept doing is like not only like some of the injuries that I go through. It was injuries, different defenses. And once I get up to the top, starting, balling, it's like, okay, all right, I'm finna go off, change your position.
Yeah.
So I got to move a different way.
Is that why safety is such an important thing to you?
Well, it's natural for me. It's sweet. Like I got turned into a corner when I got
right.
Because I was playing nickel, and then I was thinking like, okay, I'm gonna go to safety. And somehow I won a corner job. What the hell? How did I beat out all these other guys that have been playing corner for their whole life? Like I don't know what the.
Sorry.
Yeah,
you're good.
I was like, yeah.
We'll dump.
Like I was like, I don't know what I'm doing out here.
Yeah.
But I took the coaching and I went out there and did my best. So I made some plays. I actually got a pick at corner. I got a pick at every position, but it wasn't elite though. It was good, but it wasn't elite.
Jimmie Ward is going to be a joy to cover, a joy to watch, and you can kind of hear the joy in his face. There's kind of a little rivalry though, or a little like beef between him and DeMeco Ryans, and I say beef very loosely. We'll hear that in a second, but first, let's hear him talk about the other guys and just listen to how much he lights up. Like, I mean, just think about it. This is a guy who has been this close to a Super Bowl a couple times the last few years. If Jimmy Garoppolo can make one throw, they beat the Chiefs. If all their quarterbacks don't get hurt, maybe they beat the Eagles and get another shot at it. But you can just hear the true joy from this guy. And he seems really happy to be here. And I want you to listen to this. Listen to how he kind of lights up talking about his young teammates, first and second round picks in last year's draft, Derek Stingley and Jalen Petrie, who those are the guys that we're most excited about in the long term in that secondary. But listen to him talk about Stingley, and then we'll hear him talk about everyone's favorite, it seems like, Jalen Petrie.
I didn't know Stingley was as big as he was.
He's gotten bigger. He's gotten bigger.
I seen him move, and when he moved, I was like, oh, okay, he's probably like what, 5'10", 5'11", okay, probably like 195, 190. That dude was like 6'1", 6 feet, about 205, 210. But I was like, LSU, Patrick Peterson, okay.
What do you expect?
Claiborne, all those wide receivers. Cornerbacks. I was like, they got big guys that move like they're 5'9". So it's just his skill set too. It's amazing.
Yeah. You hear him talking about Stingley. Let's hear him now talk about Jalen Petrie.
His feet is so quick, and then his ball skills nice. And then it's like his demeanor.
Yeah.
Like you ever just look at him and stare, like he just got this mean look. I like him as a football player. Like,
he got this mean look.
He got this death stare. And but that's the type of guy you need. I was like, I love playing next to him. Like just his whole attitude, just what he brings to the game.
So when Jimmie Ward came up, and this was after practice, and we'll get back into what was going on. We're just talking about the secondary right now because my biggest takeaway, if you're just tuning in, and I appreciate you for coming through, subscribe, like, football season's back, mofo, is that this secondary is going to be good. Like that is my 100%, I believe, secondary is going to be really good. But Jimmie Ward and DeMeco Ryans have a little bit of a beef about, he says he's a safety. I'm not a nickelback. I know I'm good at being a nickelback. I'm one of the best nickelbacks in the league, but I'm a safety. And we showed him the roster when he came up, and he was so happy that he had the S by his name. So we asked him, and by the way, we're going to have player interviews every single day. They're usually in the 11 o'clock hour. So if you're getting ready for lunch or something like that, you want to listen live, or you can listen back on the app, 11 o'clock, and we'll always bring the content and freshen it up when we go in the locker room. Why is being a safety so important? Here's Jimmie Ward telling you, me, and all the other people that follow and watch this squad why that's important to him.
Just over the years, I got to play deep. And nothing wrong with playing like all the other positions, but like that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play safety. That's the reason why I love the game. Is just I love everything. Yes, I get to pick the ball, but I also get to hit, and yes, I get to blitz cover, and that's really how I made my name. I worked on my weak link. I was coming out of high school. I never forget, me and Jaquasi Tart got drafted together. He was the free actually, and I was the strong coming out of high school, and they had me doing all that stuff, but I always felt like I could get better at coverage. So I started working on my weak link. That's what I always tell young guys. Work on something that you're not as confident on, and then you'll get better. Your game will get better.
All right. So he thinks he's more of an elite safety than corner. And again, my biggest takeaway, and this was kind of I would say like a 9-15 revelation at practice. The secondary might be a strength, and by might, I feel very strongly about the secondary. Quote of the day, though, from the secondary. How about this? How about old Jalen Petrie saying that Madden makes him a better player? Brandon Scott asked the question. I've always maintained that coaches in the age range of, teenagers now all the way up to 44, 40, 43 that played Madden are better at clock management than the old coaches. Jalen Petrie took it a step further. He actually said that Madden makes him a better NFL player, which I thought that is today's day one quote of the day, courtesy of Jalen Petrie. As far as going on the field, now this is something that we have that not everyone else has. And by we, I mean myself and my co-host. We actually are sitting on the 50-yard line on field 3, which is where the quarterbacks do their individual drills. Now, people can still watch, but they don't have as good of a view as we do. I literally could have just thrown something at CJ Stroud and just hit him. He probably they could have listened to the show and heard everything they were saying as they were working out. And CJ Stroud, biggest takeaway, CJ Stroud versus Davis Mills, as we can continue to go through the takeaways at camp. This is generic. This is cliche, but it's so true. CJ Stroud, the arm strength between him, Davis Mills, Case Keenum, it's almost comical. Case is putting every ounce of everything he has into throwing the football, and you can tell he is not on the same level, and neither is Davis Mills. Davis Mills had a really, 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 really rough day. A really rough day for Davis Mills. CJ wasn't great. He did miss a few deep balls, although he did connect with Nico Collins. I see that highlights kind of making the rounds. But it's clear that this is CJ Stroud's squad. Like he is going to be the starting quarterback. I know that there was talk that they rotated. Not really. Like CJ got a bigger chunk of the reps than the other guys. He also, if we're trying to get like an early sign of what Bobby Slow is going to do, it looks like there's some zone read in this offense. There's at least the zone read play action, which DJ Bieniemy put up the stat. CJ Stroud is really, really good at. And I would, Jacob, appreciate you. Ward and Petrie will be a good duo. But it's not going to be Davis Mills at all. This offense they're already doing things that CJ Stroud's clearly comfortable with. It's stuff that we've seen. We've seen this scheme do that. The RG3, although obviously CJ's not going to be used like RG3. They do a little bit of it in San Francisco, but that's going to be what CJ. This offense is built for CJ. You can tell. You can 100% tell that that's the thing. The one thing I will worry, I don't know if it's like a concern, but it is something that we kind of talked about when we talked about when the draft was completed is, and Seth Payne was talking about this with me as well, just after practice. CJ's going to have to get used to realizing that these aren't the receivers he played with at Ohio State. And that's not a knock on the Texans, although we know that the Texans probably have one of the most unimpressive receiving rooms in the NFL. But I would say at least, 30 teams would trade their entire receiver room for the wide receivers that CJ Stroud threw to at Ohio State. I mean, we're talking about 5 first-round picks. So, throwing a go route to Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison or Jackson Smith and Jigba is a lot different than throwing one to Noah Brown or Nico Collins. So I do think he's going to kind of have to adjust to that. And you can kind of see it. There were some misfires on deep balls, but man, it does look pretty when he throws it. But the conclusion that I come up with the quarterback thing, CJ Stroud's the starting quarterback. And they're really not. If they're trying to hide it, I don't think they're doing a great job. I don't think they're doing a great job of really hiding it. I'll get to your questions. Thomas wants to know about the tight ends. We will get to that. Charlie's asking why are Clinton Show saying it's an open competition between both of them and you can't tell who was taking reps with the ones and the twos. I don't agree with that. They were splitting it up, but if you look at how the offense is going, they're doing things that CJ Stroud was doing at Ohio State. The zone read, like fake zone read, play action, that type of stuff. That's not Davis Mills' offense. Now, CJ did have a moment where he kind of tripped over the center, but that's the beauty of it. Different people see different things. Clinton Shower saying it's an open competition. I don't believe that. I thought CJ got the majority of the reps, and I think the way that they're calling the game is it's kind of clear that this is his squad. Tyler Elliott asks, what did you see out of Kenyon Green today? Heard he was sloppy. I'll let you decide. I actually got a locker room video here of Kenyon Green. I'll pull it up here. This is Kenyon Green warming up. I don't know if he's in shape or not. I don't know. I'll let you decide. Lopez and Seth Payne insist. I mean, they think that he appears to be a little bit out of shape. I feel like he looks at the very least kind of the same as last year. But Lopez and Seth, they're my body experts. You tell me. You tell me. Does this guy look like he's in shape? Does this look like a year 2 O-lineman to you? What say you? I don't know. It looks kind of like a rookie to me, which is not great. He has been rehabbing an injury, but who knows? We will keep an eye on that because you can trim some baby fat pretty quickly in camp. I know Tony Romo used to always come in fat. So there is that, but Kenyon Green was not starter. He wasn't the clear first team guy. And I'll say this is how I'll put it. And this is how I put it on the air. I would bet on Kenyon Green being the starter at left guard, but I would not be shocked if he wasn't in week 1. Stay tuned. It's a fluid process. He'll get his opportunities, but it doesn't look incredible for Kenyon Green. Brown Chubby Bear, crazy SOB. How you living, my friend? He says they didn't even have Will Anderson or Scruggs with the ones all the time. Is this DeMeco's strategy to build competition across all position groups? I guess, but I respect what people say. this, if you would have to watch it to understand, I don't think I didn't consider this like a clean split of quarterback reps. Like I didn't. I wish y'all could see the way that they're calling the offense and the stuff that they're doing. It's clear that this is CJ. Unless they're just fooling all of us, it's pretty clear. As far as the second team stuff, maybe this is a DeMeco strategy, but Will Anderson, if you took all of the numbers, and this is another takeaway from this thing, if John is saying the fat will fall off, okay. If you look at the you guys are crazy with this Kenyon Green thing. Good Lord. At least you got the chocolate sprinkled donut. That's my favorite though. I'm a big fan of that. Y'all are crazy. Kenyon's knee is bad all the way back to college. He should be taking reps by now, and he's not. 6 months after another meniscus process. Yeah, I don't know what DeMeco's doing with the rookies. I don't think there's going to be like some over-the-top hardo thing. And let's be real, Will Anderson is going to start. I don't know what's going to happen with Scruggs. I actually don't know that I'm sleeping on Questenberry, but I do think Scruggs ends up being the guy. Questenberry looks like he's kind of put on a little bit of good weight. Some people say that he's, a scheme guy. But I expect Juice Scruggs to get every opportunity to start there. There was a weird moment where CJ tripped. He was under center and he was going back to pass, tripped, fell down, got right back up though. But look, going under center, he can do it. But it's clear that he's comfortable in the shotgun. But Kenyon Green, he was on the field. Don't know how I really feel about that. Other things that I noticed about this team, and this is a combination of the podium and what you're actually seeing out there, is there's a couple of like tag teams that you can tell that they're really, really close and they get along significantly. And you heard Jalen Petrie talk about, hanging out with the DBs and how they spend a lot of time together. You heard Shaq Mason say that when Titus Howard got his contract extension, he called him last night and he was talking about the group text and, how tight of a group the offensive line room already is. That this team seems to kind of like each other. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that matters. I'm sure there's been locker rooms where guys don't even talk to each other. They want nothing to do with each other off of the field, and they've done fine. But there are some guys that appear to be kind of attached at the hip. I already mentioned Jonathan Joseph and Derek Stingley. They didn't leave each other's side. Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. You saw Laramie Tunsil shout out Titus. I think that's one of his best friends on the team. They actually walked off the field together. I think they were going to do some media for HoustonTexans.com. So you have them. Tank Dell and CJ Stroud. I actually put the video up of those two guys. After practice, they ran off the field together. They actually did a little bit of extra work together. And then Case Keenum and Davis Mills, they actually were together. They were actually together after practice and they were doing conditioning together, and getting some extra throwing in, which maybe they needed. But they were on the side getting some conditioning in and stuff. And they weren't doing excellent excellent in practice. C. Royo asks, who's getting the first team reps at linebacker? Kirksey, Pearman, and how much longer do we have to watch Kirksey in a Texans jersey? I'm starting to think Kirksey's going to be here. I don't know what they think of To'o. It seems like they love him, but they got Kirksey, Pearman, and Christian Harris out there. I'm starting to think that DeMeco might like something about him. Which, if DeMeco likes Christian Kirksey and it's not some sort of like Lovie Smith-Kirko thing, I can be okay with it. Obviously, there's not like a huge shelf life on it, and obviously there's going to be some frustration with Kirko's game, but I'm starting to think that maybe Kirksey makes the squad, which would be frustrating to a lot of people, surprising maybe. Maybe To'o pushes him, but you can't have enough depth. But I don't think Kirksey's days are as numbered as I once did. So maybe he stays. Just plain Dave, appreciate you. Even though it's the first day, how did Metchie look? He looked good physically. He looks like he's ready to go. Didn't really do anything like major in team, but I mean, he looks like a guy who can contribute. And I'm ready for the feel good story to go away with John Metchie, and I'm sure he is too. He's always going to be a feel good story. He's playing with house money when it comes to success and winning at life. But this was a guy that you invested a second-round pick in. This is a guy that you had a lot of options at the position to pick. And this is a guy that we got to see John Metchie do some things. And I'm starting to believe that that's a possibility. I actually had someone, pretty respected person, say, hey, if I was betting on person to lead the team in receptions, might sprinkle a little something on John Metchie. Might be too far, but I mean, with this receiving core and the uncertainty, maybe not. Metchie comeback player of the year. Who's even in the running? Is Deshaun? Would they give Deshaun comeback player of the year for being suspended for the allegations? I don't know who's in the running, but you got to think if he has a good good year, he's got to be considered. How was the Pierce Singletary split? Pretty clean. I mean, Pierce is clearly the number one back. Singletary was out there. The kid out of Arizona State, Valladay, he's got something, man. It's really hard to look at running backs in this time. When running backs will shine is when the pads come on, and that's when we'll really be able to evaluate them. But yeah, that guy's got something. It's clear to see why they like him, and he seems really, really comfortable taking handoffs out of the shotgun. When they were doing, the shotgun stuff that I previously mentioned, the zone read, RPO type of stuff. It seems like, and I don't fancy myself an expert on what Arizona State did or how they ran offense, but the guy seems to be really comfortable in that kind of, shotgun down the field type of role. So yeah, I would check that out. Oh yeah, DeMar Hamlin's going to get it. That's right. Yeah. What's he up against? I thought he already got all these awards. So yeah, DeMar Hamlin definitely going to get it. That is a fact. TX Star, Jared Patterson starting left guard. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do there. I do know that Kenyon Green has got to figure it out there. Other takeaways on the field. It was day one. CJ clearly the starter. Secondary going to be good. Kenyon Green, many people considered him to be a little bit chubby. The linebackers, Kirko might still be on the squad. Roy Lopez looks freaking jacked. I don't know if that matters. Him and Heinisch too. They spend a lot of time together. You got to think those guys are basically competing for each other's livelihood, but they're still pretty good buddies. No Sheldon Rankins, not believed to be serious. DJ Bieniemy said that. I would take his word on Sheldon Rankins because they both came from the Jets. DJ was on the Jets beat, and Sheldon was out there. So I would take his word for that. The tight ends, someone asked about the tight ends. They look pretty good. Although Quiteriano, he's not practicing yet. Who knows when that happens? It's kind of the same thing as happened last year, but hopefully you get to see him a little bit sooner. The good thing about Quiteriano, though, and this is not the same thing that you can say about Kenyon Green, is some bitch was ready to play when he came back. I mean, I was shocked. Like for all the times that he was inactive, I mean, that kid came in there ready to play. Whether it was blocking, whether it was surprise receiving, whatever he was doing to prepare without actually being on the field was impressive. I spoke to him after his first touchdown, and he tried to shout out let's shout out to the trainers. So, people starting to wonder if Kenyon Green, like what his habits are off the field, like what is he eating? How much conditioning is he doing? How healthy is he? How able is he to do things? And who knows? Maybe he's just one of those guys that's built like that, but can't say the same about Quiteriano. When he gets out there, he'll do his thing. And then you add the tight ends, the Shrek, Beck was out there. They were moving him around a little bit. He's got the long hair now. So yeah, the tight ends, they looked pretty good. JJ Stagg asking about the CJ to Nico. Looks like Nico was selling out and Sting was just kind of chilling a little bit. Nah, Stingley doesn't chill. In those situations, I mean, you don't want to contest it too much. I mean, you do, but you don't have pads on, trying to figure some stuff out. Nico did his thing, but Nico always practices good. So I'm just not – people keep asking. Jacob just asked right on cue, are you warming up to Nico yet? Look, I like Nico. I think Nico can establish himself as, a valuable piece. But when we start saying, Nico Collins breakout season and Nico Collins number one receiver, I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying it. Sorry. I'm just not. Derek Jones says Green will be okay. Define okay, Derek. And I'm not picking on you. I just want to know what okay means. Because are we lowering the expectations? Because when my squad drafts a guard in the first half of the first round, I mean, it should be a plug and play. He probably should be pretty damn good. What does okay mean? That's my question. What does okay mean? Would be my question. Did Hutchinson get any reps? He did. He actually had a diving catch on a poorly thrown ball. Yeah, Hutchinson, I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on Hutchinson. Hutchinson's going to be nice. Other people asking about Hutchinson. Eduardo says Nico wide receiver 1. He might be wide receiver 1 here, but I don't think he's like a wide receiver 1, Kind of like how, hell, you can make a case Chris Moore was wide receiver 1 for this team for, extended periods. He's a 5 anywhere else. But we'll see what happens with him. Matthew asking about Brevin Jordan. He had a couple of drops. He's been known to do that, but he dropped the ball in practice. He physically looks good. I don't know like how he's going to have to block. And when you have other guys that can line up multiple places, like the Beck, like Shrek, like Quiteriano, Schultz, you don't really want to move him in the backfield and have him lead block. But he's going to have to block a little bit better. If he's going to have to block a little bit better. Ryan asks, only been to one practice, but who would you say a few arrow down guys? That's a good question. So I would say the arrow is down on Case Keenum. Like anyone who thought that Case Keenum was going to compete with Davis Mills to be like the backup, no. There's a clear gap between Case Keenum and the other quarterbacks. Again, this is practice though. So, Case is kind of a gamer. So maybe he guts it out. I would put the arrow down on Case Keenum. I think the arrow is significantly down on Kenyon Green. Yeah, he's on the field, but he's not getting the first team reps. It's not like he has like some sort of amazing veteran in front of him. I mean, the guys that are getting the reps ahead of him are also young players. And you have a guy who didn't even play an offensive snap last year in Dieter from Miami. So I would say the arrow's pointing down on Kenyon Green, arrow's pointing down on Case Keenum. Nobody in the secondary, nobody on the D line. Too early to really tell that. Nobody at running back, nobody at wide receiver. Those would be my two, just based on the day one. Kenyon Green is the one that is really suspect. Really suspect. Someone's asking about Tank. Tank looked fine. This was, he's small, but he looks good. He looks like he belongs. One thing I will say though, y'all are asking about John Metchie. Plain Dave, nobody talking about players. There weren't a ton, honestly, today, that just really stuck out. Unless you want to talk about Valladay, there wasn't anything like, oh, who the hell is that? Where you have to look at your roster. So we haven't gotten there. We'll get there. Primetime asking about the Lopez body transition. I hope he can play. I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe it, because I think Roy was a little bit pudgy 2 years ago. Last year he cut up. We talked to him about it, actually. And now it almost seems like he's in the middle. So I don't even think it's like a body transition. I think it's just like finding middle ground. The thing about Lopez, though, not John Lopez for damn sure, Roy Lopez, is he improved his body significantly in year 2, and now he looks like he's improved it too. So I don't know that it's like that much of a transition. I just think he works his ass off in the offseason, and it's clear to see. John Metchie, the one thing with John Metchie, I'll get to this DeMeco question in a second. John Metchie, do not let him return punts. And they don't plan on it. I think he's just one of the guys who's back there in the drill. Tank Dell's returning punts. Metchie dropped about 3 punts. And I know he's not a punt returner guy. But yeah, I would not recommend John Metchie returning punts. That is for sure. No, thank you. Let's get to some of the questions before I get out of here. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. The likes help. And right along. Y'all been with me since the beginning. We've been doing this 10 months. We're creeping up on 1 million views. Didn't even use thumbnails last season. We've started doing that. I know that's like boring crap, but we're almost at 5K. We're almost at 1 million subscribers. And we're going to continue to doing this. So I appreciate everyone for rolling through. I'll get to the comments now in the starred comments that you guys gave. But yeah, Tank is the punt returner. There's no doubt about that. That is 100% true. TX Star, what's the center story? Is that going to be a hole in the middle like last year where DTs were camping out in the Houston backfield? You did not have Juice Scruggs with the ones. You had some Scott Quessenberry action. You had some Jimmy Morrissey action, and you had Juice going in. But I think Juice Scruggs is going to get every opportunity to be the starting center. You don't want Scott Quessenberry to be the guy, but it does seem like Scott Quessenberry is, without a doubt, he looks a little bit better physically and schematically. A lot of people smarter than I say he could be a fit. Do you think CJ will be getting the bulk of the reps with the ones? Mills looked inconsistent. Yes, he will be. And I actually think he was getting the majority. And I think the offense is clear. It's CJ's offense. How's the O-line looking? Any changes up front? The tackles look the same. Shaq Mason already looks the part. You can tell he's very vocal out there. And then the center and the left guard, big question marks at this point. KI, no way Lopez correctly called a brawl in the Astros game. That's wild. God, he damn sure did. call that. OO says, I told you that Titus will be signed. Yeah, I didn't think that there was a hurry. They got it done. Good for him. Good for them. Hopefully the offensive line is improved. But yeah, I don't remember you saying that, but I'll take your word for it. You have no reason to lie. Congratulations. Alex Navarro, Xavier is going to be clutch. Xavier Hutchinson is someone who I'm keeping a close eye on. As I said, he had the diving catch. Very much enjoyed Xavier Hutchinson outside of when he played Texas in college. I think Xavier Hutchinson's a really good player. Stephen B. Anderson worked with the twos also. That is correct. He did, but he sticks out like a sore thumb, and he looks like just a total badass out there. Tommy C says, Landry, I know you don't care about Nico Collins at practice, but how do you like that 40-yard snag over Stingley? It was good. Would that have happened in pads? I don't know. Nico Collins needs to catch deep balls, and the quarterbacks need to throw catchable deep balls to him. A lot of times the deep balls that were thrown to him were not catchable. If Nico Collins is going to have any hope of being what the most optimistic person thinks that Nico Collins is going to be and what even the most pessimistic person thinks he's going to be, he's going to have to catch deep balls, period. That's it. Rudy J says that Sean Pendergast pissed off DeAndre Hopkins. I actually just saw this. Sean actually sent me a text as I was on here. That's why I was kind of giggling at the start. Sean said something about DeAndre Hopkins practicing, and it looks like Nuke went the quote tweet route and said this, and Sean's Twitter is blowing up now. Just buy my jersey for your wife at this point. I'm sure she's tired of hearing my name in your sleep. Just buy my jersey for your wife at this point. I'm sure she's tired of hearing my name in your sleep. Rich Eisen even co-signed this, said, damn, you're getting a lot. Sean got cooked. It looks like. I think the kids call that ratioed. I don't know how he's handling that. But yeah, even Ari Myrov is going with it. And oh my goodness. Sean Pendergast jumped on like a trampoline. Pretty good stuff though by Nuke. That's actually quality trash talk. And I was at the game yesterday with Sean. Sean's one of my good friends. He likes to talk shit. That type of shit talk is something that he will appreciate. Alex says, Landry killing it. Want to start something in your path, fan level. I'm not sure what that means, but want to start something in your path, fan level. Hey, whatever that means, I appreciate it. And whatever you want to start, go for it, man. Rick says, who hit clutch deep while he was double teamed? It wasn't that deep. To be honest, I was on the air at the time of it. I saw the catch. I don't remember who did or didn't throw. The tight ends, they look good. They're solid. Did get Quintariano, and that's what I'm most looking for. Tyler says, Jesus Christ. Shout out to Jesus Christ. Green is chalking up in the bus direction. What a shame. I think Green's performance is one of our top stories next year. It's one of the top stories of camp right now. For him not to be an unquestioned starter is concerning. We're not saying that about Jalen Petrie. We're not saying that about Derek Stingley. So just the fact that we're here, even if you want to wipe the slate clean, it is concerning. And I think the position does matter. I mean, if we were talking about a cornerback, if we were talking about a wide receiver, if we were talking about, anything of that magnitude where there's some growing pains, then yeah, but we're talking about a guard. That's supposed to be a safe pick. So I don't know if he's going to be a bust or not. No idea. Derek's asking about the hat. I got the hat at they gave it to me. I think they only sell it at the team shop. It's not it's not something you can order online. but it's at the team shop. It's one of my favorite hats. I get asked about that a lot. JJ says he saw the video of Will and Metch. There are a lot of videos, and I know some people, I can understand like play-by-play training camp stuff can wear people out. I love it. I love it. I miss football season. Football season completes me. Everything's better during football season. The sky feels better. The weather's better. The music sounds better. The food tastes better. Your wife or girlfriend, they're even prettier than you already think they are. Like everything is better during football season. So inject all of that in my veins. I can deal with that all the time. Forever Royal, why not sign Darby for depth or possibly competing for cornerback 2? For what? That would be my question. Why? Especially if Steven Nelson is going to be here. And say what you want about Steven Nelson, but if Steven Nelson is one of your rotational guys, why do you need Ronald Darby? You have Des King, who did a good job filling in last year when Nelson and Stingley were out. You have Tavier Thomas, who at the very least can line up in the slot. You have Shaq Griffin. For what? I know they worked him out. Maybe they'll look into it. If Steven Nelson isn't here, then maybe that's something they figure out. But with how the roster is constructed, and if they truly, and I would keep an eye on this, but if they truly believe Steven Nelson is, going to be on the squad, I don't know that they need to sign Darby now. Maybe, but man, that would just make this an even more intriguing cornerback room, which I've already made it clear how I feel about that secondary. C. Royal, love the question about Caserio. Had him almost admitting he doesn't know everything and how he enjoys learning a new offensive system. Great self-evaluating answer. Yeah, Nick will do that for you. That's all good. Yes, Will Anderson is the real deal. Can Amari Rodgers hold on to a roster spot, or does number game force him out? He's fighting an uphill battle, although I do think that when push comes to shove, he's going to make plays. I could see him having a really good preseason. Brown Chubby Bear says that D-Hop should be nominated in the Slime Off for saying that about Sean Pendergast. I don't know. I kind of think D-Hop dunked on Sean pretty badly. And I actually think Sean probably enjoys the attention. He retweeted Ari Myrov on it. So, yeah, Sean's kind of making it pretty clear that he likes the attention. Coyote Kojo says, bring Parker McCollum onto the locker room. I did. He was on. If you go back to lives, Parker was on. I'll probably get him on during the season too. But, yeah, I've talked to Parker on here. He was on the tour bus, though, so he didn't have his video working. There was some sort of like StreamYard thing with him. But, yeah, I've had Parker on. You can go back and listen to it. It was around the DeMeco time. I think it was kind of Mills-ish. We hadn't gotten CJ in town yet. But, yeah, Parker's been on. Parker's my boy, man. I like Parker. And, God, he's a freaking star now. Jesus. I wonder if he's ever going to outgrow, being Mr. Houston. I don't think so. I think he's going to be the new Clay Walker. Interesting fact about Parker, by the way. We were talking to the business people with the Texans, and Coyote, you want to see him again? Okay, you said you saw it. You want to see? Yeah, you'll see him again. I'll get Parker on again. But I guess the business people, when they were surveying people about the uniforms, the new uniforms, they actually surveyed Parker. Parker was one of the guys that they talked to. They talked to some of the local rappers. Obviously, they talked to. I think they've talked to over 10,000 people about the uniforms. The message is clear. They say they got everyone. If you want a little hint of Oiler blue or Houston blue, you're going to get that. If you want, some flash along with the tradition, you're going to get that. You're basically going to get everything that you want. Now, anyone who thinks they're going to have Oiler uniforms, first of all, screw that at this point. Second of all, I think you've learned the last couple of days that damn sure isn't going to happen. Appreciate everyone for coming through. We got a lot of time ahead of us. It's been a smooth ride. It's been a fun ride, and we're finally here. We got stability, baby. We got stability in this organization. It's a fun team to cover, fun team to talk about. Always has been, quite honestly, for me. We started this channel 10 months ago. I've been talking about the team on the radio for damn near 10 years, and I've been talking to you guys. I'll be talking to you guys nightly throughout the season. Subscribe, like, right along. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Appreciate everyone for commenting. It's only going to get more fun. Spread the love. Enjoy it. Take it in. Don't let anyone minimize it. Don't let anyone sit there and tell you, oh, it's just training camp. Screw people who say that. Football is America's present time. Enjoy it. Soak it in. Take it in. Come here for the best content you can get when it comes to the Texans for the digital game. Go to Sports Radio 610. Download the Odyssey app. In the loop for the best Texans content you can get when it comes to the radio game. Going to be talking to someone else straight off the practice field tomorrow. Going to be talking to y'all throughout the day as well as another night stream. Appreciate everyone for coming through. When it comes to this Texans thing, we're all in this together, baby.
Takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.